Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and it is Friday, February the 9th, 2018. And I am, yes, again with my posse, BZ Rieger and Lisa Flamino Rush. And I love it. This time, BZ said, wait, let's hit the button. So we have hit the
before
button.
we got going.
Yes, before we started. So awesome. And we're going to talk about, so is this in regards to the codes that okay, yeah. This one's going to be in regards to codes and keys of compassion and the waves that we create. Is that right? I won't pretend to comprehend that, but I can feel it. So I wanted to make sure I said that right. And so, Lisa, you were saying something when BZ had
Well, yeah, BZ triggered something that a memory that recently what has been happening to me it can happen as I'm waking or as I'm falling asleep. So sort of in a dream kind of phase that I'm in. I'm neither totally awake nor am I asleep. But I will notice that I have orbs or even waves leaving me, and they're, I want to say I'll have a sentence that comes with it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's like for a while it was original source codes activate now, and I noticed this in the courtroom too when my way of being is to meditate. And for all I mean by meditate is I stop the act of thinking and I just get into feeling. And how I get there is gratitude. So I thank the air that is filling my lungs, and I thank the earth that is supporting me and the sun that is shining. That gets me into a now moment where I'm not thinking. And so I just do a gratitude rampage, and I think of everything I can feel gratitude for. And then I say, how may I serve? So that I'm in a receptive mode, because now I'm listening for what I might do to serve. And in that receptive mode, I'll get information or a sentence or an inkling, go stand over there. And then I know this is how I serve. I'm standing here. And I don't know why exactly, but it feels good to respond, by doing it. And so in the courtroom, I noticed what I was supposed to do was I was supposed to stay near to the agents. So in a certain area of the courtroom, all of the people who were allowed phones sat in a certain area. So I knew that they were somehow an alphabet agency, or they were there for work because they had phones. And I was to sit near them or stand behind the prosecution little table. And I was supposed to beam compassion and love. So I forgive you. I thank you for your service. I love you. I appreciate you. So certain like little phrases would come to me that I would just repeat over and over. And so anyway, the other day I had been tuning in to find out what I just want to know, like what's going on, because I feel an undercurrent of lots of activity, but I don't really see anything. And so I tuned in that the waves were here and that they were coming and filling up everything. And I was seeing those waves as something external to me. And then, BZ mentioned that they're coming from us. And I had like a, oh, ding, ding, ding moment, because I did notice that, like I observed the waves or even orbs leaving me, and that they were coming from inside me. And I was observing that activity. So I definitely know exactly what you're talking about, that it would come from us. And I do think that all the changes that are happening now are happening internal. I mean, I've recognized that for a while for myself, that everything is changing from the inside out. And even as far as like the other day, I saw even the system, like the court systems and all the systems, that there's something inside of them that is changing. It's not a force. It's not an external sort of brutal, oh, we're changing this now, but sort of a morphing from the inside out. So maybe that is what you had in mind to speak about today?
Yeah, well, what I wanted to play with, because when I was driving home, it came through loud and clear with videos in the whole 9 yards, and it said, go play with this. Okay, fine. So yeah. I texted a very cryptic, only because I wasn't paying attention when I was texting, message to Sheila. But so let me back. So what you're talking about is, it's the one way to language it would be the waves of compassion that are creating.
Love it.
Yeah. A musical interlude is always nice.
That are creating, I'm sorry. They're waves of compassion that we are creating.
Yes.
We're creating them by intention.
Yes.
And by active being and doing of it. And even if we don't hold it that way, even if we just find ourselves more and more in a state of compassion and not getting all head up about different things, and then we're actively doing it as well. We just may not be cognizant to the fact of that level.
Thank you for throwing that in, BZ, because I know I fall into that category.
Well, yeah, but you're doing it nonetheless, because that's part of the predominant vibration that you're holding,
right?
And so you're flowing it out. Okay, so that's kind of the descriptor for those waves. Now I want to back up for a moment.
Okay.
Depending, I'm not sure how in tune and knowing people are to the trapping systems that have been on the planet in the third dimension and the fourth dimension. It's trapping as far as your souls, and when you die and it brings you back, you know, you're there. Actually, there were grids and nets, etheric in nature. There's not like, you know, fishing nets over the planet, but but that would trap the souls and then bring them back. And there was also a false thing where they would people might think when they were dying and they were leaving and they wanted to, you know, connect with either a loved one or an archangel or something like that, and that was the false light, and they think that they would see it and, oh, this is great and everything's great, and, you know, you're going to come on and you're going to go back down, and that was what was happening to a multitude of souls. And that's part of the Anunnaki grid and all of that.
Sure.
Now, the other thing is, when I was talking about that, and then I just said to Lisa at the beginning of this, before we started recording, I said, well, Lisa, is there anything come to mind? She thought about it for a minute, and this popped right into her head, and then she said, well, no, and pushed it away. And so I said, okay, well, let me try that again. So, you know, think into your heart. What's the first thing that pops into your heart? And she said, this. I said, okay, well, there you go. So oftentimes we on the planet here, beings, think of that, you know, the new energy's coming in and the changing with the energy and so on and so forth, that it may not be something doing to us. We may come around to the fact that it's our souls and, you know, and source, and we're all connected, and it's not an us and them kind of a thing. But we think that it's, you know, from out there coming in. And
yes.
Okay, so that brings up a question for me.
Uh-huh.
because I've heard these things about, you know, the false light and the reincarnation traps and those sorts of things before. And as a puzzle piece collector, I heard them and I let them in and all of that. And I still, you know, I never really made a discernment one way or the other. I felt it was rather disempowering to actually believe in something like that. But, you know, since I haven't actually died and been offered the opportunity to come back that I recall, I thought I would reserve judgment on that. However, I am also aware that right this moment, there are those who are, and I have been one of them that have been feeling this energy and thinking that it's coming from the outside into the planet. But now I'm being made aware of a group, if you will, of folks who are feeling and putting forth a narrative that there are these specific kinds of energies and they look a specific kind of way and they're doing a specific kind of thing. And so I'm wondering, is what we're talking about here, I'm now feeling that, okay, if this is coming from inside of us and our souls do know what to do, and I feel that's a true statement there, is it then also possible that there are others with their own agendas that have something yet and again that looks very similar, that folks or souls or whatever may be asked to consent to? Or so I'm not sure.
Well, since I haven't listened to those,
Yeah.
I can't purport to say what they're saying or not saying. But
well, I'll be honest with you. I haven't paid a whole lot of attention because I haven't put a lot of stock in it.
Right. Well, let me just play a little bit in this and see if that helps with that. So I'm going to set that aside for
now
a bit.
Okay.
So with the trapping, and part of it was designed so that you couldn't actually go back and have your own choice. That's the whole thing with the karma and everything else. It's not something that Source designed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't part of the original plan.
Okay.
Reincarnation, sure, no problem. But you're the one who's choosing you with your soul and the whole 9 yards. Okay.
So you're talking about like that life read and sort of the guilt that you got to go back and fix something.
Yeah, well, I wasn't even going to play all the way down there. I was just talking about, you know.
Okay.
I try to stay in the big picture for
Gotcha. Sorry.
Well, I guess the reason that she's bringing that up is because, in truth, anytime you talk about reincarnation, that karma thing usually comes along with it.
Right. Yes. Which is all part of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, if you were supposed to do over, it would be helpful if you had some of the information that you needed to do over instead of getting your mind wiped.
That was always my point. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, so yeah.
How can I fix what I do in my screw up? I gotcha. That's a different show. That's a different show.
Well, this may take care of a lot of that. So.
Okay.
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 So I just need to set some premises. So yes, there is trapping systems. And yes, it's around this third dimension, so around the actual planet. And yes, it's also in the fourth dimension, because a simple way to hold the fourth dimension is that it's a pale mirror reflection of what's in the third dimension and more abilities and that kind of stuff. But just it's simple for now.
Okay.
Your mic, your sound is going out again.
Yeah.
We're going to do simple.
Okay.
Okay, so we got that premise, right?
Yes.
And then, so there are lots of energies coming into the planet.
Mm-hmm.
that the central sun is beaming in, that the sun you see up there in the sky is beaming in, that source is beaming in, that's being amplified by beings down here on the planet, so on and so forth. Okay.
Okay.
There are also, because we're incredibly powerful creator beings, I know a lot of people haven't gotten that memo yet, but it's a good memo to read with all the other memos that are out there floating around. And so one of the ways that we need to step in and have this be an inside job and be part of unbinding and unwinding everything, and what a better way to use as a euphemism for if we've got a trapping system and a net, and you unwind and unbind the net, then the net is gone. Okay. So a lot of energy, not all, but a lot of the waves of energy at this moment of now is coming from us, and the major code and key, it's a compassion key that is triggering these creations of waves or beams of energy that go up to the fourth dimension and are actually disintegrating, dematerializing the trapping systems, grids, and nets. And then that translates back down because, it's got to go there first. That's where they actually are control point from, come back into the third dimension. And it happens because the amount of beings who, whether they consider themselves awake or whether they consider themselves light workers, doesn't really matter. They don't have to, they don't have to have a secret handshake or any of that kind of stuff. But the clarity and purity of their predominant energy, frequency, vibration in general, but also specific with that, because each emotion and each that we have, each feeling that we put out has different colors. It has a different, auditory frequency that you could hear to it, and it has its own energy, frequency, vibration to it. Does that make sense? So not only has not only is a large number of beings coming to this threshold, we'll say, but now and many are actively, intentionally, directionally sending out these compassion keys. It is now reached because of all the other waves coming in, and a whole lot of different reasons. But just again, short, simple to say, at this moment of now, it has reached a level that we have come to the crescendo of this piece, and there's many multiple, I don't want to quantify, but millions, there's many multiple pieces to all the unwinding and unbinding, okay? But it's come to a crescendo right now, and it has been reaching there and weakening and unraveling and poking holes in this, the grid, the net, again, however you want to trapping system. But now it's at the level where it's actually breaking it all down. So it's breaking it down on the fourth, and it's breaking it because, remember, that's a reflection kind of a thing. So it's breaking it down within here. And one of the reasons that it was really important for me to bring this forward in the conversations that we have is because oftentimes we think that, it's something outside of us there. And even if if we're playing on the idea, okay, well, I'm a creator being, okay, but I got my soul and they're really guiding the ship because I don't know anything, and so on and so forth, right? That's kind of where we get, right? We get the small, playing small again, right? But this is coming from down here. So you are doing it. This cannot happen any other way except from the third dimension going out to the fourth, and then because of the way that's designed, it rains back down. And you know, think if you've got a big dome or shield around something, right?
Yes.
And so all of our waves going up, they wash that all, and the washing is kind of dematerializing rags. Instead of banishing the streaks, we're dematerializing the grid, right?
Yep.
Do it at the fourth, and then that, you might say, that cleanness or the banishingness or whatever you want to use for the metaphor, filters down, rains down, and washes it around us. And that's a really bad metaphor, but
no, it was beautiful. That was gorgeous.
So, but we have to do that.
Yes,
that
it's an inside job. You had to be in the planet.
You gotta start here.
Yes.
So
I get why we're here suddenly. Why you had to incarnate.
Well,
because you had to be walking on the planet to beam this frequency.
Yeah, it's
and
one of
take it all down.
It's one of them, but yes. So in other words, if you want to do a visual that, up on the clouds, cloud puffs up there, you got all the ships and you got all the souls, and they're all sitting on the clouds and their feet are dangling over and they're going, well, they're really doing good. And, they're doing good, oh, ouch. Okay, they're doing good, right? But they can't say, hey, the compassion key. You got to turn the compassion key, right? We've got to come to that ourselves. So there are others like that, but this particular one is one that absolutely is such. And because we're doing it, because we're sitting on a mountaintop, because we're at work and we just don't want to go into the revel because we're actively doing it, doesn't matter. The becauses are all as different as all of us beings are different. Okay?
Well,
but that's what's happening right now.
Well, that's what I really felt when we were in the courtroom. But I didn't realize why until now, then. That it was, there was something in me that felt like it was important. Not just that I wanted to
hug everybody.
Yes, I felt that I'm sorry, but I really wanted to hug every one of those agents.
And she told them so.
And I did tell them so.
And you were freaking them out.
Yes, ma'am. They were terrified.
And I've got a clutch piece on my ankle, and you come near me with that hug.
Well, but to almost every one of them's credit, though, okay. And I started with Jason Pack because Parker still dashed, but I started with him and I told him that I was very serious about that and may I hug you? And to his credit, he offered his hand instead. And I grasped it with both hands and I made sure that he
hugged it.
Eyes. And I said, I really want you to feel my heart and the fact that I meant what I said and that I do love you and that it's important that you feel what I'm feeling for you. Since he wouldn't let me hug him, he had to hear it instead. And I didn't understand why. Okay, I get it. A lot of folks might see this and say, oh, well, she's just a weirdo. Whatevs. I don't care what you think. But it felt like that was something I just had to do. Now I kind of get why.
And it's not just the alleged courtroom case in Tennessee. It's everywhere and everything.
Yes.
So when you think of all the things that that have to do with, well, if you've educated yourself at all, things that are in the fourth dimension and fourth dimensional beings and entities and the way they like to have tricksters and play and have allegiances with Anunnaki and other things, you get that this is, well, really pretty cool that we got the message, from ourselves right down here to ourselves, and we're doing this. So anyways, that's one of the things. There's much going on right now, but that's one of the things. And as I was driving back from Dili last night, very clearly said, go have a conversation about this and play with this. So I said, okay, and texted a cryptic message. And
Okay, I'm sorry. Who did you just say?
I texted you.
No,
No.
I realize that, but it sounded
Really?
like you. Say what? I missed something.
Yeah. Who asked you to talk about this?
Ah, okay. Okay, you referred to yourself as someone else, I thought, and that's why I
No,
must.
I said I was driving home from agility.
Oh, agility.
Agility.
Okay, the agility training. Okay,
I was driving
that's where I misunderstood. I thought you
Yeah,
said.
you're hard to hear right now again, BZ. There we go.
So, okay, so you were coming home from your agility training with Keegan when it came in. Okay, I gotcha. I'm sorry. I just had to clarify because I knew if I couldn't hear you, it probably wouldn't translate very well.
Well, and it's another thing too, because so many people hold it that they're still small and they're still playing small, and they say they get the idea, that they're a creator being, and there's cool stuff going on, and they have little things they dabble in, and they say, oh yeah, okay, and they have it reflect back and forth. But mostly they figure, their soul's got this if they get that far, and they'll kind of go with it, and the energies are coming in, okay, they're raising, and so I'm just gonna be washed with it, or have some term ascension symptoms or whatever, or things are crumbling, and I think that one of the things that I was, as I'm driving and the light's changing, I'm playing in the light, so I'm reacting to, because I can, the way that my physical eye see things, I can see many more colors than I ever used to. This isn't all of a sudden change. It's been going on for many years. But anyways, I could, when you have, the day is coming to a close and that's beautiful, soft evening light. Well, the way that my eyes read the light, and especially that change in spectrum that comes at that time of day, it's almost, you ever seen, an amazing, that you may not be right near a place like on the water to see the sunset, but you can see all of a sudden there's these really bright hues and these really, and these amazing blues, cyan blue, and also different color blue, where there's some pinks and stuff. Well, that's kind of stuff, unless I'm particularly harried or something, that just comes into my field of vision at those moments. The same thing in the morning when the change comes in. And so at that moment, I was already playing with, what would be of value for me and service for me to create or co-create with you guys or others in a way for people to start to really feel into that they're not small and doing it. So I was kind of playing in that as I was driving along and watching all the colors. And then this thought, which I had been playing with anyways, of these compassion, the waves and stuff. Anyways, that's why it all came around now. And it's important not only to notice that, well, it's a huge deal what we're doing. It really is.
Yes.
I mean, it's incredibly significant. And some people always say, well, I don't get it, or what's the point, or you're kind of crazy, or I don't really understand. So you could look at it this way, from a very linear perspective. So we'll go completely linear for a minute. Not all, but many people can look around and say there's something just not right with the world.
Yeah.
And, I got to do all this stuff, and I never have time for something for me, and I don't even have creativity. What is that? I don't have any time for that. And the fourth dimension is where the spells, the actual spells on money, which is the backbone of the control system, generated and created.
Okay.
And in the trapping systems that, you know, you die, you're worm food. Okay, fine. Well, that's one theory. Or, you know, or your soul, you know, you leave and you can come back. You get pushed right back around. That's in large measure taken away from that free will choice, because you don't have a choice, you know. So anyways, that's why this is so important. And not only is it important in that sense, but it's also incredibly important and incredibly valuable for people to understand that the little suits, the shirts, you know, the shirts right down on the planet with their feet on the ground, or in the asphalt or wherever they are the ones that this piece absolutely, positively, 100% had to come from here up and out, instead of a collaborative, you know, or the other way around.
Yes. You're reminding me of something Sheila and I talked about yesterday. Okay, I was feeling very intently yesterday that, and you're really describing how that works for me. You're expanding the vision I had yesterday, which was, we free ourselves individually from the matrix, if you will, energetically first. Okay, so we were talking about how, you know, I've done everything I can short of going to jail to extricate myself from the situation, from the matrix, meaning I stopped feeding it in the ways that felt comfortable to me that I could do, sort of one step at a time. But the biggest and most important step I took was to discharge myself emotionally, to understand, like to look at it and see it for what it is, a harvesting system, and to unplug myself emotionally. Because I realized that the more angry I was that this was even happening and I was a part of it, I was actually feeding it through my own resistance to it. And I was making it more and more real by my upset that it had any control over me whatsoever.
Yes.
And so I was reinforcing it and making it stronger.
Yes.
And I woke up one day to realize that I could, inside of myself, disengage from it, meaning remove the electrical charge, because in reality, it has nothing on me.
Right. And they love it when you do that.
Yes.
Not
so
when
now,
you do that
okay.
part, when you were doing the other part, they love that.
So, right, exactly. So when you were talking, I could see how sending it forgiveness and love in the same way that I was doing while you were speaking, I thought of the same things that I was doing to the people in the room, because it's so easy for me to love people, BZ. I just come by that so naturally. And I know that I was hearing about horrific things the people in front of me had done. Like, let's just use Parker Still as an example. It was hard for me to hear Randy's story of what happened to him when he was pulled out of that vehicle. And it also hurt me the way that Parker talked about it, making it sound as though he had every right to do so and it was a good thing and he was doing a good thing. That hurt my heart. But I also could see that he was a human being and I could love him anyway, like sort of that Christ compassion, he knows not what he's doing, because if he knew, he wouldn't do it. And so I can very easily love people in that way because it just comes naturally to me. But when you were speaking, I could see that if I loved money or even the systems for just, I don't know, I think it's okay to, for myself personally, to say, I thank you and I honor you for showing me something. And you know, I don't have to love it for torturing me, and that's not what I'm referring to here. But there is a way that I could reframe it to myself and send it love and compassion in the way that you're speaking, And I can also see how it would make it disappear all at the same time, because I would be acknowledging the truth of the situation, which is it is powerless, I am powerful, and all is right here on planet Earth.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. That's beautiful. I can really feel that.
Well, and during that conversation yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, I, of course, as I am give to do, I said to Lisa, I have to play devil's advocate for a moment because I can hear those that haven't been able to even take a moment and open their minds and look at what we're talking about here and say, well, that's all fine and good for you because you don't have this, that, or the other that you have to do. You know, there's all those reasons and excuses of, well, you know, kids got to eat, got to have someplace to live, and all of that. And for myself, the energetic portion of what Lisa speaks of is the first step. Yes. At this moment, most specifically, after what I have witnessed in the last 2 weeks and my own thoughts and feelings about what I witnessed, we are in the end stages of that whole harvesting mechanism collapsing, the very end stages. And so for me, it is more the thought process, the energetic portion of this that is the most important, meaning using what it is as a tool, recognizing it as a tool for the moment. And yet, maybe that's part of that actively waiting that I feel like I'm doing, because I feel it about to be something different, something completely new and different. Because if there is no fixing that, it was corrupt and stupid from the jump, and now it's going to be something completely new that we decide that it will be. But for me, that's the first step, is just that energetic portion of it, and saying that, you know, it's not, I'm not going to allow it to control me. That is different. And for me, folks that are waking up and I got to go make the donuts and, you know, go and hate what they're doing in every moment. You know, I don't even know how to respond to that for them, because I feel as though there has to be a point where you go, well, what is more important here? What is more important? What kind of life is that anyway? If that's really what you think, what kind of life is that anyway? Regardless if you think this is all BS, what kind of life is that? If even if somebody can't open their mind to think about what we're thinking here, then I would say start small for yourself. If you are doing a job that you hate, to have a place that you can't afford to eat food or whatever you got to feel like you got to do, maybe it's time to look at things to change a little way or something, because that's slavery in and among itself, when you don't even think about all the rest of this energy harvesting mechanism. I don't know, anytime you got to get up and go do something you don't want to do, that's your energy that you're giving away freely that you don't want to do. That's an energy harvesting mechanism right there. So it is that energetic thing for me that I said, well, you know, because at any moment, whatever soever, I might not have a place to live or whatever, but I'm not worried about that, because I know I'm a creator being, and I will handle it whenever it presents itself. At this moment, I'm not trapped into anything That's the way I feel. Doesn't mean I'm right. For everyone else, your mileage may vary. But for me, in answering that devil's advocate thing out there, it's the way you look at it, I guess, is the first step. At least that's the way it was for me.
Well, and this is not happening in a vacuum. And you, if you didn't have a soul, this suit that's, holding up the t-shirt or the shirt or whatever it is would be all floppy and fall on the floor, because it's just the way it is. Have you ever seen any kind of animal being, person, anything that died? Well, the resemblance between, let's say, a cat or a bird, or I'm sure most people have seen a dead bug, anything, just does not resemble that which is the same thing. You can put the same label around when that life form had its life in it, its energy life in it. So right there, just notice that. If you're that far away from all this, notice that. And if you like being in a place where you like railing against the system, or you want to be part of the system, great. Then that's where you are, and that's what you like, and it's yours to like or not, But notice that as well. I think that one of the biggest and simplest is that whenever we hold something of just kicking back and watching the show from the sense of, well, someone's going to do it where they're not doing it fast enough or whatever, and sometimes they'll just get with it and send me the memo, is not taking responsibility and accountability for yourself.
Yeah.
And when you do that, realize that you are, so here's really the most important part about that, is that you are creating that. So that will always occur.
Yep.
If you're waiting for something to come and you don't have to have a job, or you don't have to pay taxes, or whatever it is. But it's because it's in that not taking ownership and honoring who you are and your roles to play in this, it will always be the same. Yes, the metaphor may change, kind of the scenery, if you want to hold it that way, may change. But until you step into that, if you want to, we'll just say you're just going to trade problems, if we're labeling that way. You're just
Right.
going to be a mirror, and then it's going to be somebody else's fault, and somebody else hasn't gotten around, and
Yep.
and wherever you go, there you are. It's
because the truth is, what we're waiting for has already happened.
That's right. We're
And
waiting
so
for.
what
we're
are
waiting
you
for
doing?
us to get,
Yeah.
sick.
to do something different is what we're waiting for. Yeah, man.
And up on that cloud, that I was describing for with all the souls, there is no frustration, and there is no, Jesus, are they crazy? Come on, you gotta see this. There's none of that. There's none of that. And it's just tremendous joy. So just maybe to finish this last part is that what is going on right this moment? And for those who do have eyes to see and the feeling and can tune into it, it is just absolutely the rejoicing that is going on, that we have down here, the little shirts down here, have done this, have come together, have, against all odds, in the little ragtag band of little shirts, have done this. The joy is absolutely amazing. So that's another thing that you're feeling. You're feeling the waves that you're sending out, although since you were thinking you're in the small shirts, you weren't, well, I'm just a small shirt, man. I don't send out any waves. Well, yeah, actually you do. Yeah. And the other waves you're feeling is this, you're feeling, just hold your hands now as you listen to the recording. You're feeling the colors and the sounds, and everybody takes in the energy and that incoming frequency vibration differently, but you are feeling those waves that are answering your waves out of joy and applause and happy dance and cheers from all the souls that are watching us do this.
Well, I'm in agreement. I know I've seen in Conscious Conversations Central Facebook group that there are those that have been questioning because the way things went in the last 2 weeks. And I don't get it. I know that I have said in times past that I don't hear things or get things or see things or feel things, but I saw, feel, and got this. And I do feel that something big went down. Do we see it yet? No, we don't. Have we heard about it yet? Well, some of us might. Well, I don't. I haven't seen what, I mean, with these eyes. And do I comprehend it yet? Oh, no. But do I feel? Yes. And I can't even really explain it. And I know that everyone wants to see it and feel it and know it and all of that. And I get that. And I don't know how to language it properly.
Well, they're the only ones keeping themselves from doing that.
Yep.
And I will point out here too, you mentioned a few, or maybe there's more than a few, I don't know, that are questioning or there's something, and they're giving themselves an amazing gift. They're doing an absolute terrific job right this moment because they're giving themselves a catalyzing moment to clean and clear stuff within them that's up. Because if they really were, I'm assuming if they're in the Conscious Conversation Central Facebook group, they're awake or they think they're awake, or they hold that they're awake, and they hold that they're in their heart, and they hold that they're, this is bigger, and they hold that they get the bigger picture, and they hold a whole lot of stuff. I'm making that as a supposition for them joining the group and wanting to be in that energy and playing that.
Sure.
So if that's a fair supposition, and they're having these questioning, and they're having these things that are coming up, and then they're taking the next step because it's within them, and they're commenting or they're saying things or they're giving demonstrable energetic forward that's transferring into the matter. Remember, what you think, what you feel matters because it's pulling it into matter. Then they're doing an amazingly fantastic job of catalyzing all of that, sparking, illuminating it that for them. And sometimes it doesn't feel good because it's hitting them in the face, whether it's fear, oh my God, and if he didn't save us, and what am I going to do? And I wanted to use this for that, or whatever it is, right? Yeah. Bravo. You're doing an amazing job, and you're giving yourself an amazing gift because you're cleaning out and clearing out and integrating all that stuff, because all those things that I just laid out in that supposition of why you were in there really weren't so, except for perhaps on an intellectual exercise level. And that's great. No judgment there. I'm being completely serious. This is when you celebrate and you go, wow, okay, this has lit me up, whatever it is. Yahoo. And then, how do I move through that? How do I integrate it? How do I play with it? How do I notice it for myself? Not for CCC or anybody else, just for you, whoever the you is, from whatever that is. Amazing stuff, because that's how you get to where you want to go. Because until you can clear all that out and integrate all of that, you can't be part of the waves of beings who are sending these compassion keys out to dematerialize all this stuff, and all of this stuff that's being dematerialized is one component, but it's a really significant component because it has so many threads that are tied to it around, oh, I don't know, a little thing called the spell around MONEY and all of that, you know? So it really is all good. Just notice and give yourself some compassion.
Yes, it starts with you.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you both so much. Yes,
Yeah.
this has been
Thank you.
awesome. This has actually been a very
right
awesome
on time.
I'm glad we decided to talk about this.
Me too.
I was about to write it on the list of future conversations, and I'm like, no, if we're going to talk about it, I'm not going to write it down.
Well, it sealed it when Lisa was hiding from what the question I asked her, because I could hear the answer. But
it seemed too small. Sometimes I think, oh, what I have is so insignificant. I have to stop doing that because it is not serving me.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah. Well, because, you know, this is a good point to make also publicly, is I do that a lot because I think, oh, it's so small and it's just inconsequential and it's just such a nothing burger.
Yeah, and it took 56 minutes to talk about it. So
right?
Good thing it was small.
Well, I'm learning from that too, to be honest, because you're right. We do, all of us tend to think that, oh, nobody wants to hear that.
Yes.
It doesn't really mean anything. Or that's that playing small that you talk about, BZ.
Yeah.
And, I can only smack her around so much.
Just to borrow a phrase from Bob Newhart, stop it.
I know, we say that all day long to each other.
Yes, and then I demand my $5.
She does. If I had it, she'd be rich right now.
Okay, well, that does it for another edition of Conscious Conversation Central, and thank you both so much. Gosh, I always get so much out of these conversations.
Me too.
So we will find, I will put in the show more section of this video a link to BZ's blog at the IUV and both of Lisa's blogs, the Heart Song Musings and Rush Solutions Tools for Transformation. And of course, there will be links to the Conscious Conversation Central Facebook page, as well as my email address. And I'm inviting everyone to send an email if you want to be a part of the PPC squad. That's the Puzzle Piece Collecting Squad. That's really just an email list that I'm collecting, because as I move forward and I switch things up or add things and change things, hopefully maybe some live shows, I'd like to be able to send you an invitation if you'd like to come. So I promise I won't be sharing those email addresses with anyone ever. So thank you, ladies, again. And bye-bye till next time.
Bye.